Here we are asked to determine if these are functions or not at example 5. Well, let's just go ahead and quickly graph these. So here's my xy plane. We have the absolute value of x is equal to y. Now, let's go ahead and plug in like the number 0. Well, if you throw 0 in there, you end up with y is equal to the absolute value of 0. You end up with just the absolute value of 0. Well, that's just 0. So you end up with this ordered pair 0, 0. Let's try plugging in 1. Y is equal to the absolute value of 1. Absolute value of 1 is just 1. So we end up with this value 1, 1. That ordered pair, I should say. 1, 1. Let's try plugging in maybe like 2. So y is equal to the absolute value of 2. That'll just come out to be 2. So we have this ordered pair 2, 2. Then maybe let's try some negative things. So maybe like negative 2. So y is equal to the absolute value of negative 2. So we're throwing different inputs and seeing what their outputs or their range is. So the absolute value of negative 2 now, well, that comes out to be positive 2. So we put in negative 2 and got another y value 2. Notice these guys have different inputs, but they did end up with the same output. This is a really great opportunity to show maybe does that vertical line test in fact work. So we have 0, 0, that's that first point. We have 1, 1, it's right here. 2, 2, it's right there. And then we put in like negative 2 and it came up with 2. Now if you put negative 1 in there, you would get a y value 1. So what you should end up seeing is this kind of V type of shape for a graph. Does that pass the vertical line test? Well, let's check. There's just once. There's just once. 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 So is a y equals the absolute value of x, is that a function? The answer would be yes, it is. Now looking at b. B gets a little weird. We have x is equal to the absolute value of y. Well, typically, we're used to throwing things in for x and then kind of seeing what y comes out to be. And as a result, this is definitely, oops, that's a bad line. This is definitely a different kind of frame of mind that we're going to have to kind of go ahead and wrap our minds around. So, there we go. We still have a standard xy plane. He's not changing. But instead of plugging in values for x, we're going to go ahead and throw in values for y. All right. So let's just start off simple. Let's start off with the y value 0. So the absolute value of 0, well, that just comes out to be 0. So we ended up plugging in 0 for y, and it just so happened we ended up with an x value 0. Now let's go ahead and try like the value 1. So x is equal to, when we plug in 1 for y, we end up with x equaling the absolute value of 1. Well, the absolute value of 1 just comes out to be 1. So we have this ordered pair, 1, 1. Now let's try plugging in, for example, a y value like negative 1. So then we end up with x is equal to the absolute value of negative 1. Well, the absolute value of negative 1 just comes out to be positive 1. And so when we plugged in negative 1 for our y value, we ended up with an x value 1. Now let's go ahead and graph these. We have 0, 0, there he is. Then we have this point 1, 1. Which is right there. Then and lastly, we also have this other point 1, negative 1. So 1, negative 1. Connecting them, we should see a function that does something like this. It's kind of like a V, but on the side. So it's kind of like we just took this image and just turned it, what, 180, no, 90 degrees? Yeah, 90 degrees. Is this a function? Well, just doing the vertical line test, you can see very quickly, nope, crossing twice. So as a result, for B, this would not be a function. All right. So again, though, that is example 5 from our 2.1 set of notes.